Bloxburg has had over 100 updates since the release of the game, and out of those updates, majority of them were pretty good, but there have been some updates that many people hated. So today, I'm going over some of the most hated updates in Bloxburg history. Before the video starts, make sure to subscribe. We are super close to 120,000 subscribers, so if you could help me out, I'd really appreciate it. With that being said, let's start off with the first update. Back in 2018, the 0.6.4 update released, and one of the biggest changes from this update was that parked cars would now despawn after 5 minutes. This alone wasn't really a problem, but the part that upset people was that their cars would despawn even if it was in a parking spot or on your plot. It definitely doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal compared to other updates on this list, but it still frustrated people that got stranded on the map due to their car despawning. But fortunately, the developers fixed these issues in 0.6.5 by making cars stay spawned in parking spots and plots, which means problem solved. In March of 2017, Bloxburg's donation limit was $100,000 with no cooldown, which meant you could donate over and over without having to wait, and that was obviously overpowered, so a few months later, the 24-hour cooldown was introduced. This didn't really annoy people because you could still donate $100,000, which at the time was a really large amount of money. But in 2019, the donation limit changed. Now you can only donate $10,000 every 24 hours without premium and $50,000 with premium. This was upsetting because the update was released to prevent exploiters from transferring money. But since it applies to everyone, normal people that have nothing to do with exploiting are affected by this. For example, if you were building on a friend's plot and they ran out of money, you could just donate lots of money and keep building. But now, you're probably better off if the plot owner worked while you built for them. There's many more examples that we still have to face to this day, but I think you get the point. If the developers could find a way to increase the donation limit while still preventing exploiters from transferring money, the community would definitely appreciate it. One of the most widely known and hated updates was the 0.9.9 water slide update. The water slides were amazing, but the pool water, my guess is the developers' goals for this texture change was to make the pool water look more like pool water. But what they didn't realize was that builders use the pool water for more than just pools. For example, they're used to make ponds, oceans, and rivers. And this water texture looks a million times better than this plastic texture. The backlash this update got was crazy. Multiple videos with hundreds of thousands of views, tweets with tons of likes, and all of them were calling it plastic water. Everyone was asking for the water to get reverted to the original texture. So instead, the developers added a newer, less plastic looking texture. People obviously didn't like this texture either, and after even more backlash, the developers went back to the original realistic texture in 0.10.1. In 0.5.2, everyone's favorite feature was added to Bloxburg, house bills. Since house bills were added a year after the release of Bloxburg, there aren't many posts about it, but the posts I could find were all pretty negative. Most people were complaining about how the bills were too expensive and that the game shouldn't be so realistic. So to try and reduce the anger, the developers modified the bill cost algorithm, which in normal people words means they improved how your bills were calculated, which should have lowered people's bills. Over the course of the next few years, complaints about bills have been gradually slowing down, until recently, which leads us to the next update. The 0.12.6 update is probably the reason you clicked on this video, so let's talk about it. Bloxburg introduced two new kinds of bills. The first one is a towing bill. If your car is not on your plot or in a parking spot for longer than 5 minutes, you will get an $875 towing bill if you have premium, or a $1,750 bill if you do not have premium. And the second bill is a hospital bill. If you let your mood stay low for too long, you have a chance to faint. And if you do faint, $875 hospital bill if you have premium, or $1,750 bill if you do not have premium. The tow bill seems a bit overkill because an average towing bill in America costs like 1/8 of the Bloxburg bill, but the hospital bill had a reason for being added. Exploiters like to leave their computer running for hours while automatically working at jobs. This leads to them making unfair amounts of money. So to try and prevent this, Bloxburg made it where you have to keep your moods up while working so that you don't end your shift from fainting. This adds another layer of protection against exploiting, which is definitely needed before the game goes free. Which, to be fair, is a pretty good solution, but it also affects every other player that has nothing to do with exploiting. I think a good change to this could be replacing the fainting with some kind of pop-up saying, your moods are too low, increase your moods to continue working. Majority of Bloxburg players keep their moods high while working because it makes the most money, which means this feature would rarely affect them. And another bonus is that there would be no outrageously expensive bill for getting the pop-up. Okay, that was the first half of the update. Now let's talk about the second half. Every job now pays an equal amount of money depending on your overall work experience level, which sounds positive because now you can do any job and make lots of money just like pizza delivery, but there was actually a decrease in earnings. The payment system for every job switched to the efficiency style, which pays you a set amount of money every 15 seconds, as well as any earnings you get from completing tasks. After the update released, the Bloxburg developers stated that the decrease is only about 20%. But to see that 20% decrease, you had to work for a while. So tons of people were logging onto the game to try out pizza delivery, and only after working for a few minutes, they saw that their earnings looked more like a 60% decrease. They then stopped working and went to social media. Even if people did understand how the payment system works, I still feel that it's reasonable to complain about the decrease. We are now at a point where everything in build mode is made with basic shapes, and custom items are insanely expensive, so decreasing the earnings, even 20%, would be noticeable and annoying. I think raising every job to pay the same amount of money as original pizza delivery did would have been a way better alternative, but all we can do is suggest that, and in the end, it's up to the development team to consider it. Now that we've gone over the update, let's talk about how the community responded. A petition was created on change.org that currently sits at over 11,000 signatures asking for the update to get reverted. Bloxburg was on the Twitter trending page with over 3,000 posts. Many people were relating the update to certain government styles because all the jobs now pay the same, and decals were created for people to protest in-game. There was even a Roblox UGC item created that people could buy and wear on their avatar. Tons of other things have happened, some of which make me lose faith in humanity, but that's pretty much everything from this update. So finally, let's move on. 0.8.5a was released in 2020, and it was a bug fix that lowered the amount of money you got from harvesting plants, which pretty much made farms useless. The more plants you had on your plot, the less money each plant would give, and that significantly lowered earnings. Let's use an orange farm for example. Before the update, each orange tree harvested for $367, no matter how many you had on your plot. But after the update, if you had a full plot of orange trees, you would only make about $99 per tree. That meant full farms went from making around $2 million an hour to only $70,000 an hour. Farms were super popular around this time, so logging on to find out your farm was now worse than pizza delivery was a bit disappointing, especially since they took millions of dollars to build. This only affected a small group though, because a lot of people thought farms would get you banned, so they didn't make them. 0.10.4b is an update that a lot of older Bloxburg players probably remember. The Unlock Stereo Game Pass, which at the time was the most expensive Game Pass, was taken off sale due to a Roblox copyright update. Roblox removed millions of audios and made it where the creator of Roblox games could only use audios that they created. And since the Unlock Stereo Game Pass no longer lets you play other people's Roblox songs, Coeptis decided to remove it. A lot of people were really upset because they spent 400 Robux on a Game Pass that no longer works. So obviously they wanted their Robux back. But refunding Robux is pretty much impossible, especially for hundreds of thousands of people. So Coeptis had an alternative. Everyone that owned the Game Pass could choose between $40,000, 2,000 Blockbucks, or an extra 3 months of neighborhood access. This seemed to work as the complaints stopped, but it was still a heavily disliked update. A few months later, the unlocked stereo features came back, but now they're free for everyone. And that was a few of the most hated updates in Bloxburg history. If you enjoyed, make sure to go down and subscribe to help me get to 120,000. Also, make sure to comment which update you disliked the most. My socials are on the screen now if you want to follow. But that's it from me. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.